speaking of things that progressives love being slowly taken away from them, um, a whole bunch of companies are now seeming to call it quits on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Andy, you can pull up the little graphic that I made for this. Um, from the AP, we have that McDonald's is the latest in a ton of companies, especially the bigger names that you would recognize, apparently walking back DEI commitments and maybe even in some cases entire departments. The AP reports that McDonald's said Monday it would retire specific goals for achieving diversity at senior leadership levels and end a program that encourages its suppliers to develop diversity training. The company's diversity team will be renamed the Global Inclusion Team. The Chicago burger giant says it remains committed to inclusion and believes a diverse workforce is a competitive advantage. So, not every, I want to emphasize before I open this up for comments that every company is doing this a little bit differently. Not every company's alleged withdrawal is the same type or to the same degree, but we are seeing a general drawback, or at least they're trying to rename things so that they can stop getting yelled at for DEI all the time. Um, so, the AP claims that DEI policies are actually a counterweight to discriminatory practices of the businesses. John, do you find that to be true in what we've seen from DEI so far?
Yeah, it was basically forced on companies because they thought it was the polite thing to do. Look, we're tired of getting yelled at for being horrible people, whatever it might be, whatever the social issue might be. But what you're seeing now, this vibe shift, now none of this is to say that, oh, okay, the right won on these issues. Everybody, no one believes it anymore. They didn't believe in DEI either. It's just, it was considered cool in 2018 to create all these initiatives. It's seen as uncool now. Now, when they get together at the country club, the CEOs get Snickers because of their crazy DEI quotas or something like that, and they would rather not get that. So now people are no longer, I remember a few years ago where LinkedIn, every time I checked in, because it's such a riveting site to read in detail, but anytime I'd check into LinkedIn, it was just like, enter your pronouns. I'm like, why would I do that? And then I started seeing all my friends who work in, especially the private sector, he, she, she, her, things like that just started popping up, and a few with jokes. I didn't see their posts anymore, putting jokes where the pronouns were. So it's just, it's a meaning, it's a fashionable thing is why they did it. And it's a fashionable thing on why they're getting rid of it. So I don't think people believed in their heart of hearts that all the crazy manifestations of wokeness that we've seen, they didn't take this stuff to heart. They didn't, bury it in their soul. And, I'm a true believer. I'm committed to this. I'm going out in the streets to protest. They just followed the herd, and that's where the herd was going. And now the herd is abandoning all that stuff. And you're seeing, I know some people in the Hollywood area, and as Jim started the podcast, gosh, please stay safe out there, everyone in Southern California. But I know some people out there, and they're talking about projects. It's like, wow, I couldn't have sold the script a couple of years ago, and now people are buying it. I recently put out a novel, and it was kind of the same thing. It's just like, why bother going through publishers and things like that with sensitivity editors? And, oh, why isn't your hero from a paraplegic from Guatemala with emotional issues? Oh, okay, I'll change World War II history to do that. Instead of going through that, it's just like, how about a book where the hero is a good guy trying to do the right thing? He's not perfect. He loves his country. He's not dealing with emotional trauma. He's not a gritty anti-hero. I think we've been fed this stuff for decades now, and it's just boring. Nobody wants it anymore. So, and you're seeing that, in entertainment, you're seeing it in media, you're seeing it in corporations, and you've already seen it for years in smaller stores, shops, mom and pop businesses who are just like, look, we don't have the resources to do all this crap, so why bother? And you've also seen the rise of a lot of online or virtual HR departments that a lot of small businesses use, because like, look, you guys deal with all this nonsense. Let me know which squares I need to check on my screen. And so we don't have to worry about all this craziness. We're, aligned with state laws, whether we're based in Oregon or based in Utah. They can align with the state laws without having to deal with all the drama that this kind of victim mentality always brings.
I mean, and there's another angle to this too that I don't think people talk a lot about, and that is that there are, I worked for a, major international kind of company in the past, and we had all these DEI trainings and stuff, and they were odious. And when I say odious, I mean it wasn't just that it was a waste of time and it was boring. It was like actively insulting and belittling and
Mhm.
stuff. It was really, really bad. I wish I had screen recorded it or something to show just how bad it was. Um, but
There's actually a trick
there,
for that I used working in the private sector, if I may interrupt,
yeah.
is I always listen to what the teacher is saying about the requirements of diversity or whatever the latest woke agenda is. I say, what you're saying here is completely insufficient. It does not address the root causes. And then I amplify the wokeness to ridiculous lengths until they have to tell me to shut up and just shut up and pay attention. So it's just like, you're leaving all these other groups out, and I start getting more and more obscure. And then they get annoyed with me, but they usually just think, uh-oh, I'm going to have to teach what this guy says a year from now. This guy's going way too far.
You make them
Yeah.
regret putting Jon Gabriel through a struggle session, don't you?